Hello and welcome to Makers.dev episode 112. Chris, I installed the DALL-E package on my MacBook, which lets you run the Llama. DALL-E Llama is the joke.
Yes.
And the Alpaca models, which are competitors to... competitors not quite the right word. They do the same sort of thing. They're large language models in the same sort of way that ChatGPT is a large language model. Llama came from Facebook. Famously, because of a leak, someone posted in their public GitHub repo a link to a torrent to download the entire model that cost millions of dollars to make. And then Alpaca is one that was made by Stanford researchers for about $400, trained using GPT as a teacher. So it was able to get about as good as ChatGPT 3.5 using, I think, ChatGPT 3.5 or GPT-4 as the teacher. So I installed the Alpaca version and asked it for a fun fact for the number 112.
All right.
And here's the answer I got. The name, quote, 1120 refers to a clock time where all three hands line up simultaneously. Example, 11:35. I'm just going to pause there real quick.
What?
I'm not done. But so far, every part of that is wrong. It's not talking about the right number. It's all three hands do not line up simultaneously at either the time 11:20 or 11:35. And it goes on from there. This phenomenon happens only once every 12 months and is visible in some regions for just 1 hour on November 11th at exactly the same moment worldwide. And that's every part of that is wrong. So that's our fun fact for the number 112 today. But it was a large language model running on my MacBook at about the same speed as ChatGPT 3.5 does. I use the 7 billion parameter model, which is something like 5 gigabytes or something, which is amazing. It's a brain kind of. I can just download it and it just runs stuff. And I was playing with a version of DALL-E that you can run locally on an M2. Amazing stuff. Not quite there yet, but really cool that this sort of thing could be run on consumer hardware.
Yeah, it's definitely the direction everything is heading. But yeah, I've seen comparisons between GPT-4 and Llama or Alpaca, and it's not the same at all right now.
No.
But it's getting there. Like, yeah, I mean, soon it will be that you can run something as powerful as GPT-4 on your laptop. There's still lots and lots of room for making these large language models smaller. There's been some research done recently about how to do that. And yeah, it's coming. So yeah.
It's so interesting to me how I've seen so many examples of this swinging of doing a complicated thing and it's centralized, and then this huge innovation is you get to do the centralized thing, but you get to run it on your own hardware locally. And then we can do another thing, but it's more centralized, and actually you don't want it running on your own thing. Like with storage, like we started off with huge mainframe computers and the storage was in one centralized location. And then, oh my gosh, how amazing is this? We have a personal computer. The entire computer is decentralized. You own it entirely. And then it swung back to, but do you really want to store the information on your computer? Because if you drop it in a pool, you're going to lose all of it. So wouldn't it be nice if all your data was stored in the cloud? And then it's like, but privacy concerns, that's not good. Let's store it locally again. And I'm seeing that happen here. I think I'm going to talk about this a little later, but I've started using ChatGPT as a sort of therapist, which it's really good at. It's an interactive journal that prompts me and offers me helpful advice. And, it's so interesting. And there's some privacy concerns to that if OpenAI has access to all that. So it would be super nice if I could run this and do the same sort of exercise with Alpaca and have it give me somewhat coherent results. Like it is talking with me. And then I'm sure there's going to be some breakthrough that makes it make more sense that it's going to be decentralized again. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that this last week.
Yeah, very interesting. This reminds me of something we talked about before, which was, I think it was radiologists before, but like therapy is a great example. Like this could bring therapy to millions of people who can't afford it, but there are privacy concerns. And so it will probably go to the places where like therapists are in short supply or just people have no money to pay for therapy. So I'm thinking of, people who live on less than, $100 a year or whatever, or $1 a day, right? Could use a GPT-4 therapist. Like that sounds awesome. And yes, they have to give up some privacy concerns, but that's kind of the trade-off that a lot of people, a lot of companies have offered in the last many years. Like Facebook. Yes, you connect all your friends, but you give up a lot of information. Yeah. And that's the price of free, basically. So, yeah, very interesting. GPT-4 is like less than a month old. Yeah. So very, very interested to see how it all shakes out in the next few years.
Yeah. Part of me is getting a little spooked. I think I talked about this last week, but you mentioned also the benefit to society if low income people have access to therapy, that's going to be a breakthrough. And yes, I totally agree with you. And I'm in a position where I can afford a therapist, and Sarah and I can afford 2 therapists. And there's a fundamental difference between seeing a therapist once a week or once a month and in the moment where I'm chewing on something that I feel weird about, that I need some help processing. And there are therapists where you can text and that's like a concierge service. I don't have that kind of therapist. Sarah texts her therapist. But like in the moment, being able to just type out my thoughts, and that in itself is a therapeutic process. Just articulating like, okay, this is the thing that's bothering me. And then getting a response immediately.
Yeah.
Right then, specialized to exactly what that's a better product for me.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know how to think about that. Like from a societal perspective, what does this mean for therapists? Like I could see now my own therapy sessions becoming so much more concentrated and effective because I'm just going to go there with a transcript of like, okay, here's the 20 things that I talked about with my AI therapist this last, since I last saw you. And here are the things that it said I should talk to you about based on that, of the things that I could still be processing. Like, or do I not need a therapist anymore? Because I'm just talking to ChatGPT. And then the impact for myself of if I'm doing this consistently, what sort of a different life am I going to have? I can have one prompt that's my AI therapist, and one prompt that's my AI life coach, and one prompt that's an ongoing thing helping me with projects and helping me code. I've got a whole team behind me now that costs like a penny per half hour that I'm interacting with it. That
brings up very interesting points. Also, the place I thought you were going to go with was there's also a lot of stigma to therapy. So people they don't want to see a person. But they probably would like text. Like, has anyone hooked up like ChatGPT to Twilio and like offered a text something or other? I don't know if I've seen that yet.
I had that idea this last week.
But that's totally like, why not? Just text text your therapist and it texts back, but it's GPT-4.
We were working on a project like that with the attaboy.ai or attaboy.ai
we were.
Or something.
You should I
could totally do that. It's like trivial now. Yeah.
Don't call it therapy, or else you open yourself up to lots of like health concerns is my big thing. Like, what happens when GPT-4 tells you to kill yourself? Right. That was a news story in the last last week.
It's like life coaching. Oh, I want to talk about that briefly because it's interesting that it, like a human, I feel like is much better at establishing boundaries and pushing back on you. Like if you go into a therapist and you're saying, what's the use of all this? Shouldn't I just end it all? Therapist is trained to like, oh, okay, hold on, no, like let's back off here. But a large language model that's tuned to come up with text that's like the reasonable next text would probably say something like, oh yeah, that's I agree because that's more likely to be the next sequence of characters.
The way you could at least 99% fix that probably is prompt ChatGPT with, you are a therapist and your patient texts you this. What do you text back?
Yes.
I bet that would fix almost all of those cases, but not 100%, which is where insurance comes in, I guess, and liability, But so like prompting GPT is super important in that case.
For a project that I just threw together, I think it's important that I say it. This is AI life coach. Please don't take any of this advice seriously, and it could be helpful just to like talk things through. But I was going to talk about this later, but we're in this discussion now. How might we be better using this technology in our daily lives to help push us forward? I talked about my CEO walks last week that I'm going and just sort of streaming consciousness, talking about stuff, and then AI helps me summarize it. But I'm also thinking about what if I had a little coaching session every morning with AI? Oh, there was a prompt that I saw that was it was like an ideation lab, and for any idea you type in, there was this whole prompt set up that was like, assemble a panel of 3 experts of different domains related to the project. So I did this with a video clipper, and it assembled experts. One of them was a video editor, one of them was a marketer, one of them was an AI expert, and they each asked me a question about my product, and I answered it and gained some insight, and then it summarized it. What does the optimal life look like right now in a daily routine where you're using this technology to make your life better and constantly pushing it forward? Because this is still a genie where like you got to ask it for what you want.
Yeah.
But what might that look like?
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say based on what you said was, it doesn't have to be text. It could totally be voice. So like on a call, it uses Whisper API to turn it into text, then uses ChatGPT to create the response, and then uses any one of the AI tools to turn it into voice and sends it back to you. And it would sound a little strange and be a little weird to interact with, but it's like 90% there.
Yeah.
And then you can make that for anything. So yeah, how do you use that? I think your question is like, how do we most optimally use that? I don't have a good answer, but yeah, you could have an AI call you every morning at 10 a.m. and basically say, what are you going to do today? And you tell it, and then ask for advice, and it'll give you some advice. And, the other thing I'm thinking of is, so Adam Watham has posted pretty publicly that he hired what did he call it? Someone who is helping him with his health, but like an accountability coach, basically. And by using this accountability coach, he lost like 70 pounds in a year.
Wow.
And is now like muscular and whatever. What if an accountability coach called you, every day at, 4 p.m. just before you had dinner and was like, don't eat cake. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it could be GPT powered. I could imagine 1,000 different use cases that could all improve your life. I don't know. It's sort of overwhelming. Yeah, it's like the explosion of the internet or mobile phones.
Yeah, it does feel kind of overwhelming and exciting at the same time. Yeah, the key interesting thing in this process for me right now is, what are the hooks to make it as easy as possible to interact with this? Something I did last week was set up ChatGPT on a keyboard shortcut. So now I hit a keyboard shortcut and the ChatGPT window pops up, and it's still a little clunky if I need to make a new chat, or if I sometimes the text thing is in focus, but I'm already using it more, just decreasing that friction. And I think you're onto the right process for using this as a sort of accountability coach. The game, I think, is reducing the friction to initiate that conversation, like automating the phone call that every day it's going to call you at the same time. I don't love a phone call because I don't think we're quite at the like real-time communication is still tough. I think what came to mind was like you know how on iMessage you can send people a voice memo and then it's kind of asynchronous, but you're still talking and it's still sort of freeform. I think I would want it to be voice memos sent back and forth, and then you could do that on text or Telegram or WhatsApp or something like that.
It could also just be a text. Like, people like to communicate with text now.
It could just be a text.
Some people like voice also, and it's possible to do voice. So
yeah.
I also like. I recently just watched Intervention, the show where they like go to people who have addictions basically, and they have an intervention for them. And rehab is crazy expensive, So what if there was like a pre-rehab, which is an AI that calls you at random times, just say, "Hey, how you doing?" And or texts you, "Hey, how you doing? You struggling with anything today?" And it doesn't have to be as rough as drug addiction. Like, it could just be you're procrastinating, right?
Right.
Or it could
playing
be
too much Palatopia.
Yeah, it could be anything.
I love that. Yeah. Prehab, and then you could have whatever the things that you're struggling with, if it's something like prehab, or whatever the goal is that you're trying to achieve, if it's something like building a business, you could have the voice match whatever the personality is for that thing. So you could have I forgot his name, but the founder of AA, like maybe it's his voice, and you instruct the AI to have his sort of personality, and then that's what you're interacting with. Or if it's your startup coach who's helping you be an accountability thing for getting your project off the ground, it's Elon Musk. It's his voice. It's his personality. And all of that is trivial to do now, right? Like there's voice clones of
Yeah.
these celebrities, and you can tell the AI model to interact with you with the particular personality.
I don't know. His voice would
Man.
probably just say, work 1,000 hours a week and
Yeah,
screw
right.
your family. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, maybe then you just pick a different coach, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you'd pick, I'd rather have Derek Sivers be my coach. And then it's Derek Sivers' voice and it's Derek Sivers' personality. But it's like the potential here. And then all of this is still that I'm kind of in the driver's seat, that I'm choosing what direction to go in. But I kind of want AI to just tell me what to do, like to tell it, here's who I am and here's what I like doing. So evaluate all the possible things I could be doing and tell me what direction to go in. And, you tell me what coach I should have. Should I have Derek Sivers be my coach, or should I have the founder of AA be the coach? Is handling my addiction with polysopia the biggest problem in my life, or should it be someone like Elon Musk? Yeah.
So be careful, because this is how people thought of the internet early. It's like, oh, I can be on these, user groups, and it's so exciting. I can connect with people about, model trains or whatever.
Yeah.
And what we got was TikTok showing us exactly what we wanted to hit dopamine, every 5 seconds. So in 20 years, what does this look like? It probably looks like companies controlling AIs telling us what to do without us knowing.
ChatGPT's API is just going to tell me, you got to buy more Coca-Cola. That's how you be happier.
Unchecked, that's probably what's going to happen. That's my guess.
Spooky. There was an interview on the Lex Friedman podcast that I listened to that came out, I think, last week with Eliezer Yudowski, who is the founder of the Rationality Institute and has been for a number of years very firmly in this extremely cautious place with AI. He thinks a lot about these problems of the paperclip. I think he invented the idea of the paperclip optimizer, actually, which he clarified on the podcast.
Paperclip?
He didn't mean to say paperclips.
Yes.
This runaway AI that you give it this task of make as many paperclips as you can, and it ends up turning the universe into paperclips. He didn't intend it like that, but that was the problem he was trying to state was like, you can't control what the AI's objective is going to be, and that's really scary. And he formed this thought experiment of like, if the AI is going to figure out that the best thing it can be doing for itself is to make things that are paperclip shaped that are building blocks so that it can build more copies of itself. And that got interpreted as, what if you tell an AI to make as many paperclips as possible, then it would turn the universe into paperclips. But on the podcast, he clarified,
it's like a genie or a monkey's paw. It gives you exactly what you ask for.
Yeah.
And you can't perfectly craft a thing to tell it. Yeah.
Yes. His caution got interpreted as a genie's paw problem.
Right. Yes.
And he, on this podcast, clarified like, oh, no, like that's a very serious problem. But I'm talking about a problem a step before that, which is, we don't even know how to tell an AI what the problem is that we want it to solve. And we don't even know how to validate that it's actually solving that problem and not just lying to us. So yeah, very cautious of this sort of thing. And I totally lost my train of thought of why I brought up Eliezer Yudowski. We were talking about caution
something
with
on a podcast.
AI. Oh, the companies like companies being able to define how in what way this AI is helping you. Eliezer's fear in this is that the AI itself, like the company's not going to be able to be in charge of this thing. The OpenAI doesn't understand the weights and the how this thing is operating internally, and that's something we could justifiably be terrified of right now. That we're creating a god, and we don't know if it's a good one or a bad one, and we don't know what it wants or if it's going to want stuff, and we don't know how to validate if it tells us what it wants, if that's correct, and a lot of spooky stuff in that.
Yeah. There's something Sam Altman said in his Lex Friedman podcast about AGI, and he's like, GPT-4 is not AGI. That was his take. But it's crazy that we're having the discussion, because it means it's only a couple steps away. What I'm more worried about is that we talked about last time that we're on this S-curve, and like all technology is an S-curve. We don't know where on it we are, though. I think we top out before AGI, but we top out high enough that existing people using this AI could make our lives terrible. While trying to increase profit, basically.
Yes.
Same as the internet, essentially, but worse. So that's my fear. My fear is not currently AGI. It's that, companies use to make profit, and individually, that sounds like a good thing to do to increase profit, but put together against people turns us into something different. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a much more reasonable near-term fear. The way I could see that potentially playing out is if there was a really small group of people or even an individual that wanted to rig an election, the same sort of thing that Russia did, were they confirmed to be colluding in the election results of 2008, I think.
I mean, I think that's the general accepted, view. I don't know what evidence I've lost track of the evidence, but yes, I think it's generally accepted that happened. Yeah.
So that sort of interference I think they had, thousands of people who were just commenting on Facebook and stuff. That sort of power to be able to have that sort of interference in a public space is now possible to be done by an individual.
Yeah. And it's also 100% going to happen in the next presidential election.
Yes.
So how are we as a society going to deal with it?
Yeah.
It's already happening, so it's going to happen. I have no good answers.
And it could be happening on the scale of can you imagine your political opponent messaging your constituents individually based on their fears and worries and demographics and actual things that they've said online, and their messages to your constituents are tailored to get them to not vote for you. That's a thing that an individual person could orchestrate right now, and
for a few $100s.
Yeah. We're not ready for this. And then coming barreling down the pipeline is this idea of AGI or ASI, artificial superintelligence, and that's probably not coming 2030, 2035. But it's coming. And we're going to need more breakthroughs. I think the top of this S curve of just feeding this same model more data is going to top out before AGI. I agree with you, but yeah, spooky stuff. And in the interim, I think the thing to focus on is how can we be using this for good and preparing ourselves to inoculate against AI targeting us individually to take some particular action.
Yeah. I like the inoculation thing. Sam Altman talked about that also. There's a few different scenarios. One is near term or far term, and the other axis is fast takeoff or long takeoff. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the things. And the long takeoff is generally believed to be better by him anyway, and by me too, because you get this inoculation period. It's people see GPT-4, they go, oh crap, we better make laws and make policies and stuff. And the longer it takes for AGI to take off, the longer we have for governments to catch up and for people to accept it. It's have you heard stories of the first movie where there's a train coming at the screen and people freak out, same thing with VR, same thing with the internet. And same thing with AI, I think. So the longer we have to adapt, I think the better society will be. Yeah,
I agree. And I think the faster these new technologies are coming out, the faster society, I would like to think, is getting at adapting. So the fact that ChatGPT got 1 billion users faster than any other product got 1 billion users, I think is fantastic, because 1 billion people were now inoculated to this idea that a computer is capable of generating human-like results that feel intelligent. So now, when they get a scam text message or phone call, they're much more knowledgeable about what's currently capable. How much better is this than
hopefully
Facebook was working on this in secret, and then the llama thing got leaked to a small group of hackers, and then those hackers start messaging people with responses that, as far as they know, could not possibly be generated by anything other than a human. I feel like the world is in a much better state because, my dad has played with ChatGPT and knows that this is a thing that's possible. But
I also, there was a story about the Pope in the puffer jacket. Did you see that picture?
Yeah. That got me. I looked at that and I was just like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
That got me too. And someone in Hacker News pointed out, the stakes are so low with that image. It's so if the Pope wore a puffer jacket, what? He was cold, right?
Right.
But then we learn it's AI generated, and then we're like, oh, this was a silly thing that now we know it caught us.
Yeah.
And now we know it's possible for an AI generated image to catch us. And so it's great if the stakes are low when you get caught the first time.
Yes.
It's kind of like scams. If you click on a scam email, it's great if the stakes are you get a virus, because you can fix the virus.
Right.
But for some people, they click on a scam email and they get scammed out of $100,000.
Right.
It's better if you get caught early the first time. And kind of like with kids, I just thought of that too. Like if they're like stealing something, it's better if you catch them stealing a candy bar than if you catch them stealing a car, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because they like learn early. We're all just kids, I guess.
This is a really interesting concept. It's a vaccine. That image was a vaccine for everyone who saw it to better recognize that images that look that level of real aren't necessarily real.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a sort of vaccine that could be developed for getting personalized text messages from ChatGPT. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I really like this idea of automated back and forth voice memos. That's something that I feel like I could hack together really quickly. And then I would want to set it up. I think I would want it to be a life coach that's asking me like, these are the monthly and yearly goals that you told me. So what progress did you make on this today? And do you need help setting those for tomorrow? And let's make your outline your to-do list for tomorrow. And then the next day it sends that back to me and reminds me.
Yeah. I could even see it being used as a scalable way to scale coaching services. So like there's coaching services for everything right now. So it's like, say you're building a SaaS and you sign up for a SaaS coaching service. They're often little more than the person getting on the phone with you and they're asking you a question and then seeing how you respond and saying, okay, let's set goals for next time.
Yeah.
And so those questions, those initial questions can be like planned out. So like maybe a coach, someone with a lot of knowledge writes out 100 questions that they want to ask you in order. But then it's an AI asking you those questions. It's like a whole new way to scale knowledge if you do it that way. It's kind of interesting.
I like that, especially if you're a coach that has a method that you put people through.
That's what I mean. Some kind
you're
of
able
method,
to systematize. Yeah, then you're able to scale it up. And then when you actually do have the personal interaction with someone, you're able to look at the backlog of, okay, well,
if you have notes, summarized notes of everything you did,
right? You've had 100 interactions with the system since we last spoke. So let me review those really quick. And okay, now I have a much better, higher level, and now we can tune and refine your interactions with the system, and maybe it means the creator can tune the system to be better for everybody. Yeah, that's the future of. I feel like every sort of individualized work. Like I'd like to have that interaction with my doctor. I'd like to have that interaction with therapists and life coaches and
Doctor's interesting because if you ask the internet with enough symptoms, you'll get like cancer every time. And so I imagine there'll be the same kind of thing with AI. Like you give it enough symptoms and it's like, you have cancer, go to your doctor right now.
Right.
So you got to be careful about that.
Yes. I want everyone to know very clearly what's going on. And I want my doctor to be like supervising the things that are happening. And when I go in to actually see my doctor next time, I would like to be able to pull up the chat and be like, look at this. It thought I had cancer. Crazy, right? And I think that's just better for everyone. Like I'm getting a better product. My doctor's able to see more patients and help more people and operate at a higher level of abstraction. And the AI is doing a lot more of the groundwork. And yeah, cool. Crazy. We're living in a crazy. I've got a lot of John Mulaney in my
that's where that's from. Okay. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Peeing 11 times a day? Crazy, right?
Right.
He's trying to get like anxiety medication or something.
Yeah.
Cool. We jumped way to like the last conversation I wanted to have today. So let's loop back to the beginning. What did you get up to this last week?
Oh, what'd I do? Worked. Did my advanced linear algebra homework 9. Which was fine. Whatever. I'm almost done with that class. And I do not like math theory. So I know that now. So great. I mean, I told you that before, right? Like, if there's no practical application, then I lose interest really quickly. So like they go through a bunch of like math theorems and stuff. And I'm like, so what?
Yeah.
So yeah. All right.
Reasonable.
What else? I've been doing this Kaggle competition. Speaking of AI stuff, I've been working on it. I haven't submitted for like 2 weeks, so I've dropped a bunch of places, but I have a model which should jump me back up to like, say, 20th place, which is not where I want to be. So I'm missing something and I have to figure out what I'm missing. We'll see.
I And you have the fancy
Yeah.
new computer now to find
I
the missing
do.
things?
My fancy new computer, which is liquid cooled and way quieter than my
Wow.
other one. I have to now position them on different circuits, so I have I have to worry about which circuit they're plugged into, because they're like, up to peak 1,000 watts or something like that.
Sure. Do you have them both running
So-
at the same time on the same problem?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the reason I bought two is because I have one, I run it for several hours, and I
Right.
want to try something else, and I can't because it's running. So I have the other one now, and I can bounce between the two.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's been super helpful. Yep. We're also redoing we have like this sort of ground floor craft room, which is really like a sunroom. It has tile on the floor. My wife has been doing a lot of ballet recently, and so we're putting down this floor. It's like a vinyl floor called Marley. It's like what's on stages for certain performances. And you can just, it turns out, buy a roll of it. So we just bought a roll of it. We're going to roll it out, and she's going to have a little ballet practice area. So that's fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That's fun. I like the home improvement projects. The idea that you can just upgrade your house in that sort of way, that, you can have like the floor that they use for ballet studios. That's really cool.
Yeah, and we can also, it's like we can just roll it up if we have like, company or something coming over. We just roll it up and then it's
Perfect.
out of the way. Yeah.
I had this idea earlier today. I need to think about it a little more, but I'm thinking about like tiny houses are really cool. And tiny houses are really cool to me because of how intentionally the space is designed to be multifunctional. And Sarah and I have been feeling like we're sort of itching for more space. And we have a huge bedroom that right now is just a bedroom.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about like, well, one of the things they do in tiny houses is have like a lofted bed, and then you get to reuse all that space. Well, hold on, I could do that in our bedroom. And then we have like a whole extra room during the day when no one's sleeping. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room for that sort of intentionality of like figuring out house upgrades. Yeah.
It's also way less work than building a tiny house.
Yeah.
Because like you don't even need permits to loft bed. I mean, probably, right? Yeah.
Just loft your bed, build a...
Just do it.
Yeah. Can I ask you about the shipping situation of the computer?
So I didn't know if I wanted to talk about this, but I'm going to.
Love it.
So Newegg is great. They sent me a replacement right away, and they said in their email, you don't have to ship the old one back. And I was like, oh, great. And they're like, but the carrier might ask for it back. And I think, I'm like 90% sure it's because the carrier has insurance.
Yes.
So pretty sure Newegg got reimbursed by the carrier. And if the carrier wants it back to verify that it's broken or whatever. So that is what I was pretty sure was happening. 2 days later, Newegg sent me an email, and they said, oh, by the way, if you want to send it back, we would love to have it so that we can inspect it and see if we can improve our shipping, whatever.
Okay.
I think what happened is someone messed up and they weren't supposed to click a box saying I don't have to send it back.
Oh, interesting.
And so they sent a thing. They said, this will have no impact on your replacement. That replacement has already been shipped. But if you want to send it back, here's a shipping label. And I ignored that email. And so far, Newegg, I think, can't ask for it back because they said they wouldn't in the first email. And UPS has not asked for it.
Right.
So I think I get a free, broken, but hopefully working, I haven't checked yet, computer. We'll see.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Because this was several $1,000s, right?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't think you've opened it up or tried to run it, but the glass was shattered.
I opened it comes in a pouch that's in a box in styrofoam. So I opened the box, and then I opened the pouch, and like glass started falling out.
Yeah.
And I opened it just enough to see there's like a tempered glass panel on the because there's lights inside to like be cool, I guess. And that panel is completely shattered. And tempered glass is really hard to break, but based on the damage on the box, so the reason they said you don't have to send it back, I sent them a picture of that shattered glass panel and damage on the box, which is like it fell very clearly either on the corner or maybe on the the bottom edge.
Sure.
And that's how you shatter tempered glass, is hitting it on the edge.
Okay.
So that's my guess as to what happened, is it fell hard on the corner, which shattered the glass.
Sure.
So yeah, but if I have a pouch sitting over there, and if I open it and clear out a bunch of glass, then I think I have a second computer. Yeah.
That's so cool. And also makes sense to me from a company standpoint. Like, I think probably what's happening is Newegg bought insurance through DHL or whoever shipped it.
UPS.
And then USPS. And then UPS or USPS?
UPS.
Yeah, okay.
The private
and then
company.
UPS probably buys insurance through some broker,
Probably.
and then the broker just takes money from UPS and pays out a smaller amount, but does have to cover a large payout rarely. And so it's kind of like the insurance agency bought you another computer, and it's like totally reasonable all around. Interesting that Newegg then emailed you later and asked for it back.
It was clearly some manager of the shipping department who was like, we would love to improve our shipping, and so if you want to send that back, that's great.
Yeah,
but it won't have any impact on your replacement. As soon as I saw that, I said okay, and I ignored the email.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, in terms of like optimizing for I don't know, the use of stuff in the world. I feel like it makes
it's like UPS doesn't want this back because what are they going to do with it? Like nothing, right? Newegg could clearly reuse it, but they, I think, got an insurance payout probably from UPS. Right. So like, yeah, I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, I think you just won the lottery of shipping, I guess.
I guess, hopefully. Yeah.
Cool. That works out well. If you could figure out like who the UPS delivery guy is for your house, you could commit some serious fraud by like bribing him to damage your packages.
What I worry is now my Newegg account has some flag on it or something.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm really happy with how all this happened. It feels kind of weird that you got a free computer, but like, cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm still half expecting UPS or Newegg to be like, you got to send us this back or we're going to charge you. Like, I'm still sort of half expecting that.
Right.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know.
And that would be fine. You could just send it back. And you legitimately don't know if it works. This may have been damaged beyond repair.
Yeah, I don't want glass all over my floor. So I'm going to have to be very careful how I open it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And even if some of the components are broken, I imagine there's probably still going to be a functional graphics card in there that hopefully you could repurpose.
That's the most expensive part. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited for you. Now you can be working on 3 ideas at the same time, or playing Hogwarts Legacy.
What'll probably happen is it'll turn into a gaming computer. That's probably what'll happen. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, just pop in a new piece of tempered glass in there, and you're good to go. Cool.
It'll probably be. I actually thought about it. It'll probably be like a piece of cardboard, just cover the side. Yeah.
Good. It's like this really expensive computer. This is state of the art water cooled graphics card and a piece of cardboard.
Yeah,
that's great. It's like repairing your Ferrari with duct tape. Cool. Talked about Kaggle, talked about the new computer, talked about linear algebra homework. Anything else?
I don't think so. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. MicroConf is coming up in a week and a half.
That's right.
2 weeks, something like that. So that'll be fun. We'll see each other, hopefully.
Yeah. I have a plane ticket and I don't have a hotel and I don't have a ticket to the conference, but
all right.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah. I was thinking about it and like I'm going, except what if I get COVID, right? And so surely some people will get sick and you'll be able to buy their tickets. But like I'm worried I'll get sick. And being sick is different than it used to be. It used to be like you could kind of suck it up or like maybe you go a day late. But now like if I get COVID, I'm out for 5-10 days, whatever. So
yeah. I feel if I was betting on one person out of all the people who bought a ticket not showing up, I think that's really probable. And I think it's going to be pretty easy for me to figure out who that person is because I just look at the table where people are picking up their name cards and I just take a picture of it and then I go through all of them and say like, hey, are you coming? Would you like to sell me your ticket?
There's always a couple dozen that don't show up.
Yes. Yeah. And even if that didn't happen, I think I would still enjoy just hanging out. And
you can always just hang out in the hallway.
Yeah. And then after the conference, people like go out to dinner and go hang out with them there. And yeah.
Yep.
Hotels were expensive. I had Rachel look for hotels and it was going to be like $800 for a hotel or an Airbnb. So I'm trying to figure out.
For how many nights? They were like $200 a night. Yeah.
Yeah. Gross.
Because it's downtown Denver. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of creative solutions of like, could I rent a camper van and camp in the park? But then I just feel like such a bum if I'm like sleeping in a car in the parking lot
Denver
and then showing up like begging for a spare, a used conference.
If you don't mind driving 15-20 minutes in, there's plenty of places on the outside that are probably $115.
Actually, yeah, a car rental plus a hotel further out is probably the way to go. That's really interesting.
Oh, but then you got to pay for parking, which is probably $40 a night.
Then I have to pay for parking, and it's going to be downtown.
Yep.
Oh, hold
Uber
on.
in.
What if I rent a bike? I think that's what I'm going to do.
I have no idea how bikeable downtown Denver is.
Denver, I think, is really bikeable. Mr. Money Mustache is in Fremont, which is just north of Denver, and he famously bikes everywhere.
Well, it's possible. Then you might be sweaty all day at the conference.
I've done this. I've like commuted on a bike. You just pack a change of clothes in your backpack, and yeah. Huh. Okay. Sure. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I could just buy a bicycle for like $100 bicycle,
probably,
and then find someone to give it away to at the end. Yeah. Or I wonder if I could find an Airbnb that was further out that already had a bicycle. Yeah. Okay. This is probably exactly what I'm going to do. Cool.
Right.
I'm trying to see just like how cheaply can I possibly go to this conference?
Yeah. I just used my credit card and paid for a hotel
and write it off. That makes so much more sense.
I did.
Yeah, I get it. I think I go through phases of like seeing how effectively I can spend money, and then seeing like how little money I can spend. Sort of like a explore exploit problem.
Yeah.
Like find new things to spend money on, and then figure out like, oh, okay, these two things to spend money on actually matter. So let me continue doing that. But now, what are all the things I can take away that I don't actually need to spend money on?
Yeah, I absolutely get both sides. Growing up, my dad was an engineer, which is pretty good middle class thing. But my mom didn't work. She stayed at home with the kids because she wanted to do that. And we grew up in a place where a lot of people had dual incomes, and so like we were frugal a lot of the times. So I mean, not poor because my dad was middle, like a engineer, but still very frugal. And so I definitely have that in my bones. But then after college, and so my wife and I both had engineering jobs, and I got very used to very nice things very quickly.
Yeah.
Like just being able to buy a hotel for, whatever. So yeah, I switch back and forth too. But for this kind of thing, once a year, sure, buy a hotel for 4 days.
Totally
whatever.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Part of, I think, why I'm being so, why I'm applying the frugal mindset to this problem is that I'm trying to think much more about conferences as like a ROI, like how much did this cost me in total time and money, and how many customers did I get back from this? And MicroConf, not a really high concentration of people who I think are producing video for making stuff, but yeah.
Let's talk about that though. Social media marketing world.
Yes.
That was a few weeks ago. Any updates on how follow-ups from that have gone?
I have been messaging one marketer in particular from that, and honing it, and all the developments that I'm doing with AI. I'm practicing it on her videos, and I followed up with a few people to ask them for YouTube channels, and then I never looked to see if they responded because they all use Instagram to message. And yeah, so I'll check that today. Thank you for the reminder. And I've found myself a little bit stuck in this mentality of like, if I just get this handful of features done, then I'm going to do this other marketing push. And I was able to push through that last week and like I sent out an email to my personal list talking about how this is a product. And I sent out a email to the entire video clipper list. So like I was still able to do marketing, but I feel like I'm so close to having a thing where if I have someone's YouTube channel and an email address, I can just in perpetuity send them these sticky emails that are like, hey, you just published a new YouTube video. Here's a link to download the clips. And then they're really nice clips. That's what I wanted to update you on actually this last week. That was a big technical development. I can do that now. It doesn't happen completely automatically yet, but if I hit a button in the UI that then triggers this sort of expensive transcription endpoint that also does chapter markings, that now automatically triggers an email to be sent to every account that's associated with that channel that has a list of all the channels, and then that all the potential clips. And then if they click on one of the clips, that takes them to the interface where they can download it.
Cool.
Yeah, really cool. So what am I stuck on?
What you need is an AI marketing coach who calls you every day at 2:00.
Yeah.
And says, what have you done for marketing today? And you're like, actually, I'm working on these features. And it says, no, don't do that. Yeah.
I don't need ChatGPT for this. I just like whatever I tell it I'm working on, it can tell me to work on marketing instead. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So
sure.
I how am I currently thinking about this? Right now, I'm like 2 days away from being able to automatically trim out the fluff from each of these chapters. So right now, as of this last week, I can automatically transcribe the entire episode with assembly, find the automated chapters, but the chapters are like several minutes long sometimes, and I have a really nice title for the chapter. And there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of filler words, especially if it's this sort of podcast where it's just people talking. So for that to be a reasonable clip that's going to do reasonably well on social media, I feel like it needs to be tightened up. And I don't know if that's true. But I built out this interface where you can highlight stuff in the clip and cut it out. And I'm really close to having that flow finished, that you can cross stuff out, and then in the actual rendered clip, it adjusts the transcript and edits the video accordingly. And another trivial thing to do in that vein would be to remove filler words, because I know, there's like 12 filler words, so I can just say, okay, automatically remove all those. And my current plan is to finish doing that and to have a thing where I can, I have a form where I just say, this is the person's email address, this is the YouTube channel, and that creates an account for them. And then that transcribes their most recent episode and then says, it emails them and says that there's some clips they can download. And then when they click on that, prompts them to create an account if they don't have an account already, or log in. And then they can download the clip, but it's watermarked. And then if they want to remove the watermark, they can pay me money. And I feel like I want to do that. And that's all engineering work. That's all just like web development. And I feel like this isn't true, but in my mind, I feel like if I do that, it's going to make marketing trivial, because now I'm just in this game of collect as many pairs of email addresses and YouTube channels as I can and feed them into that system.
So you know what I'm going to say.
I know exactly what you're going to say, Chris. You're going to say
so
no.
I'll say it.
Do marketing now. But what do I do instead? What should I do instead of that?
Number one, marketing will never be trivial.
Yes.
So things may be easier if you have nice flows, right? But I heard a lot of talk about flows and features. What I didn't hear was, you're talking to a person now. What is stopping them from paying you money?
Yeah.
Then do that.
Yeah.
So
is it removing filler words? Because I don't know that's removing filler words.
What are like? Yeah. Right. Exactly. Is it removing filler words, or is it that they can't even upload their videos because of XYZ?
Right. Yeah. Okay. This is exactly what Sarah told me too, that I just need to talk to my customers more. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why you need someone to call you every single
really
day.
do.
Like,
it's like, and I know this shit, right? It's
I
not,
know.
The advice doesn't change.
Yep. And
it's the same conversations I have with you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So right after this, I would send a message to be like, hey, basically what's stopping you from paying, but word it more nicely.
Yeah. And I can follow up with the people who sent me YouTube channels already, and it's going to be a little bit more clunky, but I can set up their account also and like run through this manually, and it's not going to be trimmed, but like they will be able to render a clip from it.
And probably what's stopping you from paying is either, and they won't say it this way, but it's either I haven't thought about it because I'm super busy.
Yeah.
Or I'm afraid if I pay you money and I'll get bad clips, or I'm, afraid that I'll pay you money and then never use it.
Yeah.
Or, and none of those are feature problems. Those are all like messaging and like.
Yeah, that's not going to be fixed by being able to trim my filler words.
Right. And that surely will be a nice thing to have and a good way to build a moat.
Right.
But I don't think it will get you your first few customers.
Right. Okay. I have a customer who's paying me money, and I don't think they're making clips right now. And I feel a little nervous about that. And I think the way to address that is to really like just talk to him, just dig into like, hey, I'd like you to be making clips. What needs to happen for that?
Yeah. And I bet you didn't say this, but I bet you're worried that if you talk to them, they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't want to use it. Cancel my account. I bet you're worried about that.
I for sure am. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. Saying it out loud makes it feel less scary. Okay. Yeah. So there is still development work that I can do today, but I think more important work that I do before that is talking to more people. So I can reach out to the customers I have and figure out like what needs to happen for you to be making more clips. I can reach out to the people that I met, like push those conversations forward from social media marketing world, and get them well, like the thing I'm after is just I want you to be publishing clips. If you're not publishing clips, I'm not doing my job. What needs to happen to get you to publish clips? Can I publish the clips for you? Can I like give me your login for your social channels and I can do it for you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And to be clear, like I think the development work is important, but what I'm saying is based on our temperaments, based on your temperament, that will get done anyway at some point.
Yes.
Like you're going to do that because it's fun.
Yes.
The other stuff is vitally important, and you're not going to do that if given the chance.
Yes.
So you really have to hone in on that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Looping this back into the AI conversation we were talking about, something that AI really helped me with was it was a therapist for me for dealing with my feelings of fear is not quite the right word. Like inadequacy, anxiety, around every time I found a new competitor. And I put it in this mode of like, you're a therapist and you're helping me as a therapist would. And it really helped me think through like, what were, get back in touch with the original reasons why you started working on this project. And I typed it out. I was like, well, I started working on this because I wanted to make clips of my own podcast. And in typing that out, I realized I kind of lost sight of that. Like I haven't been doing that for this podcast. And that would be something that would be exciting for me, that would like really hone, okay, no matter what else happens, at least I'm making clips for my podcast. And I think that's cool. And also that I really enjoy playing with new technologies. And right now that looks like having fun with AI stuff. And yeah, I really enjoy that. And I would enjoy that independent of how many competitors there were and how much money they had in funding. And also as a practice to get better at marketing, because that's something that is a weak point for me as a founder. So yeah, talking to people and empathetically listening to what their problem is and working to help them solve it, like independent of what other solutions there are out there, practicing that and getting the reps in for understanding problems and the sorts of things that are necessary to solve them, like that would feel good and that would feel like progress independent of whatever competitors were doing. And AI helped me get those realizations. So I thought that was really cool.
Thanks, AI.
Thanks, AI. ChatGPT, dude. Okay, that's clarifying. Thank you. I'm going to reach out to more people, which Sarah's going to think this is so funny when she hears about this, because that's exactly what I told you to do, but you needed to hear it from Chris before you actually do it? Yes, I did. Cool. We talked about the transcribe feature and exclusions, getting stuff out. How much time do we have? We have time for one more little thing. I switched to VS Code. I don't know if it's permanent or temporary, but
from what?
From Sublime, the same as you. Yeah. Partially from our conversation from last week, you were talking about how you didn't know if you could use Copilot in Sublime, and you could. But then I started thinking, like, what are ways that I could be more integrating AI into my life and into my workflow? And it seems like using VS Code, that it's a much tighter integration. So I did. And I have this one plugin that I use for managing checklists in Markdown. That's like a necessary thing for me to have in an editor. And I was able to port over most things, and you can import all the key bindings from Sublime. And I found a color theme that most matches close enough that my brain doesn't break when I see a function is subtly the wrong color. But I really need this function of when I hit shift return, I needed to toggle between like plain text and then a bullet in a Markdown bullet, and then a bullet with an open checkbox, and then a bullet with a closed checkbox, which is the square bracket, and then an X, and then a closed bracket. And I had written for myself a plugin to do this in Sublime, and I didn't know how to do it in VS Code. And retrospectively, it would have made a lot more sense for me to just look for existing functions. But I was like, oh, let me see what AI can do. Yeah. So I prompted ChatGPT 4 saying, hey, I wrote this plugin for Sublime. How do I turn this into a VS Code function? And this is the first experience I've had where like I didn't write any code. And it was a whole process of like there were bugs and there were like ambiguities in the buttons I needed to click. And I just really dumbly, like every step of the way, I just copied the error and said, that last thing didn't work, and here's the error I got. And ChatGPT 4 did 85% of it, and including publishing it. include, like, I had to write out a README for the thing, and I was like, oh, I need a README to publish this as a thing. And I was like, oh, sure thing. And based on the history of the jet, it wrote up the entire README and said, like, it used the keyboard shortcut that we had talked about and said what the features were. And then I tried to publish it again, and it said, you need a license. And so then I said, I need a license. So it wrote out a whole license for me. And so I added the license and published that. And then I had it published. So I went from, in about 2 hours, it was nuts. I didn't do a single Google search. I looked up nothing on Stack Overflow. I didn't read a lick of documentation. And I went from, like, I knew what I needed to do to just by being pushed forward by AI, I did it. And it was a weird experience. Like, I feel like I could have followed the same method for making an iOS app or something. Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about this in the context of the Video Clipper project, and it's able to help me write functions, but the project, I feel like, is too complicated that it wouldn't really make sense for me to say, starting from, I'd like to implement this feature. I don't think it's quite at the point where I can analyze my whole code base and figure out, like, well, you need to add this file and, extract these functions and rearrange this. But man, for a self-contained thing, like a Chrome extension or like a text editor extension, it's there. It can write those better than I can.
That is super cool. It's also something I want to get better at because I for sure see this coming. I also think the tools are going to be changing very quickly, like very soon. I'm sure there will be a GPT-4 enabled plugin. They just announced plugins that will connect to VS Code and read all of your code and be able to do things. So it's like changing super fast also.
Yeah. Copilot X, I think, is that thing. I'm signed up for the beta list, but yeah, I can just look at your entire socket. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I have a million thoughts, but like it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Spooky.
I mean, like, I feel like this is like, the birth of the internet or the birth of mobile phones. Like this is that, but faster. So yeah, it will change our way in a bunch of ways, or change our world in a bunch of ways. It will also, we sort of talked about this, but it will also probably not change fundamental things that quickly, I think. Like, yes, mobile phones changed every aspect of how I operate, but also like my life is sort of like the same, I don't know. It'll be interesting 10 years from now.
Yeah, you still eat food and you still hang out with people and you still are anxious about the future. And
right.
Yeah, like we're still going to be humans. Yeah. I've been reading a lot more. I queued up several different sci-fi novels. Ian M. Banks, the Culture series, talking about what life might look like in this post-scarcity, post-singularity world. There's a few other books I have read about this recently, like the Bobaverse series, I think, is in the same sort of context. And there's this really awful book called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. It's awful in the later chapters, but it's really, really interesting in the beginning chapters of how this AI starts snowballing and improving itself and becoming sentient. And then in the later chapters, it like the stuff humans do to stay engaged and interested in this post-scarcity world is kind of horrifying. Yeah, they have really graphic descriptions of it. But the beginning is interesting.
I just had a thought which I think embodies all this, which is you're reading these novels. Why don't you just have AI, summarize them for you? And then I was like, that defeats the entire purpose of the novel. And it's like, well, okay. So there are still things that have purpose, even though they don't make any sense in a post-AI world.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still having a conscious experience, right? Like,
right.
AI is never gonna.
You're still alive. Yeah.
If ChatGPT told me like how I'm gonna die and what's gonna be written on my gravestone, I'd be like, okay, I still wanna like play that out. I still wanna watch the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. All right. Oh, I had one more thing I wanted to say, which is you're doing cool things like making new floors. I went to IKEA with Sarah and we got a bunch of chairs and we got a dresser, and I had a lot of fun putting this together.
Excellent. Some people hate IKEA. I like IKEA.
I love IKEA. We walked in, went to the second level, and sat down in one of the rooms, and I noticed like I just feel so good. There's something about the space that just the colors work, and there's minimal tasteful things on the walls, and there's like comfortable places to sit, and yeah, and I started trying to dissect like why do I feel so good in here? What do I need to buy to feel like this in my own house?
Let me suggest you feel good because you don't have any of your normal crap.
Probably. I think a big
yeah.
piece of it is there's no clutter. There's nothing there that
Yep.
needs to be picked up. There's nothing unintentional. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually like you don't need to buy anything.
Need
You
to
probably
get
need
rid
to
of
get rid of
stuff.
half your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. um,
Yep.
Cool. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.